She swung the shovel so fast I didn't even have time to shout. The edge cracked against the wooden frame and then against my daughter's head. A hollow sound, a second of silence, and then she slumped forward on the swing. I caught her before she hit the ground, blood warm against my hands. The woman who did it, the president of our HOA, just adjusted her pearl bracelet and said, "Next time, don't let your kid play near condemned structures." That's when I realized this wasn't just about rules. It was about control. And I wasn't going to let her win. My name's Ethan Markham. I've been a structural engineer for 20 years. I build playgrounds that keep children safe. That swing set in my backyard wasn't just wood and bolts. It was the last thing my wife built before cancer took her. Every time my daughter laughed on that swing, I could almost hear her mother's voice again. So when Claudia Whitmore, our HOA president, told me to take it down, she wasn't just erasing a structure, she was erasing a memory. The day after the shovel incident, I woke up to a bright orange notice stapled to my door. Safety violation. Immediate action required. She had signed it herself. Non-compliant swing set design, it said. Subject to removal. And I wasn't the only one. Half the neighborhood had those orange papers fluttering on their porches, fences too high. Basketball hoops, unsafe, garden trellises, unapproved. It wasn't about safety, it was about domination. That night I went to the community meeting. The room smelled like disinfectant and burnt coffee. Claudia sat at the front table like a judge in pearls, reading off fines and violations in her sugary, venomous tone. People shifted nervously, afraid to speak. When she got to my name, I stood up. "You do realize your board let the HOA's liability insurance lapse last quarter, right?" The words sliced through the room like a blade. Her smile froze. She blinked once, twice, then banged her gavel like that could erase the tremor in her voice. "Mr. Markham, your comments are out of order." But the crowd had already felt it, the first crack in her armor. I walked out of that room knowing the battle had started. The next morning I found HOA-branded yellow tape strung across my yard. "Property condemned," the tag read. My daughter stood on the porch, backpack clutched to her chest, staring at it like it was a crime scene. My chest burned. Claudia wasn't just punishing me, she was trying to make my little girl believe her safe place was dangerous. That wasn't enforcement. That was psychological warfare. I needed proof, not anger. So I started digging, not in the dirt, but in records. And along the way, I ran into Terrell Gaines, the HOA treasurer. I spotted him standing by the lake, staring into the water like it held an answer. His tie was loose, his hands shaking. When he saw me, he flinched. "You know what she's doing is wrong," I said quietly. He didn't answer, but his silence screamed guilt. That's when I knew he was the weak link. 2 days later, I walked straight into the HOA office. Claudia sat behind glass walls with her board like a queen surrounded by pawns. "You're trespassing," she said when I stepped inside. I dropped the crumpled notice on the table. "You don't have the authority to condemn anything. You're not the city. You're not the county. You're just a homeowners association, and you're breaking the law." Her smirk faltered only for a second, but it was enough. I laid down the state statute I'd printed, highlighted lines showing that operating without insurance made every board member personally liable. "That means every fine, every threat you own it," I told them. The room went dead quiet. Claudia's voice cracked when she finally spoke. "You don't scare me, Ethan." I leaned closer. "I don't have to. The truth will." That night I drove downtown to the county building, the one with marble steps worn thin by decades of complaints and bureaucracy. I sat at a public records terminal and typed in our HOA's registration. The file loaded slowly, but when it did, my pulse kicked. No certificate of insurance, none. Expired 8 months ago. She'd been running this place completely exposed. If a kid got hurt, if a fight broke out, the board could lose their homes. I printed every page, each one a nail in her coffin. I took it straight to my uncle, Sheriff Daniel Markham. He's worn the badge for 30 years, old school, no nonsense, and stubborn as hell. When I laid the papers in front of him, he scanned them in silence. Finally, he looked up. "She's been operating with no coverage for months." I nodded. And she attacked your daughter? Another nod. He leaned back, crossing his arms. Then this isn't just civil, Ethan. It's criminal negligence. Those words hit like thunder. If she keeps pushing, he said, I'll have every right to step in with force. I left the station with that promise ringing in my ears. Storm clouds rolled across the sky as I drove home, the first drops splattering my windshield. The wind howled, bending the trees along the road. It felt fitting. Because Claudia had built her empire on fear, and now fear was coming for her. That night the storm hit full force. Rain hammered the roof, thunder shaking the walls. Then 3 sharp knocks at the door. I told my daughter to stay upstairs and opened it. There stood Terrell, soaked to the bone, rain running down his face. His eyes darted around like he expected Claudia to appear out of the dark. "Can I come in?" he whispered. He hovered in the kitchen, dripping water on the floor, staring at the folder of documents on the table. His hands trembled. Finally, he broke. "You were right. She never renewed the policy. She told us it was just a clerical issue, but it's been almost a year. She made me hide it in the minutes. She said if anyone found out, we'd all be ruined." His voice cracked. "She made me lie." Then his shoulders sagged, years of guilt pouring out. "It's worse than that," he said. "She's been funneling HOA dues into her own accounts. Fake contractors, fake maintenance jobs. I have copies. I couldn't destroy them." My chest tightened. Embezzlement. That explained everything. Her aggression, her paranoia, her desperation to silence anyone who questioned her. I told him, "The sheriff already has the insurance proof. Claudia's about to fall. But I need what you've got to finish this." He hesitated, eyes flicking toward the storm outside. Then he nodded. "Tomorrow. I'll bring everything tomorrow." When he left, the house felt heavy. I sat there listening to the rain, wondering if I'd done the right thing. For a moment I felt that old doubt creep in. Maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe I should have just let it go, moved somewhere else, let my daughter forget. Fighting people like Claudia, it never ends well, does it? They have money, lawyers' influence. And me, I had a folder, a swing set, and a wounded kid. I poured myself a drink, stared out at the storm, and almost convinced myself to stop. But then I heard my daughter's voice from upstairs, soft, half asleep, calling for me. "Daddy, can we fix the swing tomorrow?" That tiny voice, fragile and full of hope, hit me harder than any thunderclap. No, I wasn't stopping. Not now. Not ever. The next day, Terrell showed up at my office with a briefcase clutched so tightly his knuckles were white. He opened it and papers spilled everywhere. Bank statements, fake invoices, checks written to ghost companies. It was all there. Proof that Claudia had stolen from everyone in the neighborhood. "She made me sign off on these," he said, his voice breaking. "She said no one would ever check." I gathered everything into one binder: insurance negligence, financial fraud, and Terrell's confession. The perfect storm. I took it straight to the district attorney's office. The assistant DA flipped through the binder page after page, her brow tightening. When she reached the last one, she said, "If this checks out, your HOA president could be facing prison." Driving home, I passed the park where families usually gathered. Now clusters of neighbors stood whispering, holding violation notices like evidence. When they saw me, they started asking questions. "Ethan, is it true about the insurance? Is she really stealing from us?" I could have brushed them off, but this was the moment that mattered. "Yes," I said. "It's all true. You've been paying for her lies." The murmurs grew into outrage. Fear was shifting into fury. For the first time, I wasn't alone. The DA coordinated with my uncle. A public confrontation was set for the next HOA meeting. I didn't sleep that night. I kept rehearsing what I'd say, what documents to show, how to stand without shaking. When the night came, the parking lot overflowed. Neighbors packed shoulder to shoulder under the streetlights. Inside the community center, every chair was taken, every hallway buzzing. Claudia sat at the front table, pearls gleaming, smile tight. She banged the gavel. "This meeting is called to order. We have serious violations." "No," my uncle's voice boomed. He stepped forward, badge gleaming under the lights. "Tonight the violations being addressed are yours." The room went dead quiet. I walked to the front, laid the binder on the table, and opened it. You've been operating without liability insurance for 8 months. You've left every family here exposed, and you've been stealing from them to cover it up." Gasps filled the room. Claudia's hand trembled on the gavel. "These are lies," she stammered. But the sheriff spoke over her. "The district attorney has already reviewed the evidence. Charges are being drafted." Her composure cracked. "You can't do this to me," she shouted. "I built this neighborhood." I looked her dead in the eye. "No, Claudia, you poisoned it." From the back of the room a voice rose, Terrell. "She ordered me to falsify minutes and hide the missing insurance. She siphoned money from your dues. Every dollar she took, it's in those papers." The crowd erupted. People who'd stayed silent for years stood up waving their citations. "You fined me $500 for a fence? You threatened me over a flower box." A woman holding a baby shouted, "You tried to foreclose on me while my husband was deployed overseas." The chant started quietly, then grew, "Step down, step down." Claudia's eyes darted wildly, searching for allies, but even her board members backed away, chairs scraping against the floor. My uncle signaled to his deputies. "Claudia Whitmore, you are suspended from all HOA activities effective immediately. Deputies will escort you from this hall tonight." She screamed, voice breaking, "You'll regret this." But her words drowned under the roar of the crowd. Applause, cheers, tears, it all blended into a single sound: freedom. As they led her out, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks, solid ground under my feet. The spell was broken. The neighborhood wasn't hers anymore. And that's where I stopped the story. Not with celebration, not with closure, but with clarity. Because the truth is, tyrants don't fall with silence. They fall when ordinary people decide they've had enough. Sometimes justice doesn't wear a robe or sit behind a bench. Sometimes it wears boots, stands beside you, and says, "Not this time."